as long as there's a child who's eligible for an IEP, they have to have a special educator license to work and meet the needs of that child, regardless of, you know, what the need may be, if it's a physical need or developmental need, cognitive or a learning disability. So all schools have special educators, but sometimes they get students whose profiles and extensive needs don't meet the training of the special educators that they have. And so they don't have somebody qualified to meet the specific needs, and that's where they hire us as you know, sort of a contracted service provider, where we provide the service instead of the special educator, or, excuse me, in addition to the special educator, just to make sure that the child's getting everything they need, not just a part of what they need. What we do with students is different than what they're able to get during the school day, because we have the luxury of working with them one-on-one. We do document progress, and we do report out like an IEP does, and we have formal written reports that we share with families and schools. But an IEP is a legal document, and the school is required to follow certain parameters and meet expectations with that IEP. Our system is more fluid and flexible, so if a student is stuck on a particular area, we can spend extra time on it until they've mastered it. Alternately, we can also, if we're noticing that the child has really mastered certain skills, we can add to our goals and objectives without calling a legal team meeting and having to sit down and amend the IEP and get parent signatures and everything. It's a much more fluid process based on how the student is progressing and what their needs are. Some students come to us and the parent says, my kid's really struggling with reading, I don't know what's going on, and we get in with a student, and after a month or two we may also recognize that their awareness of sounds and symbols is also affecting their math or their comprehension. So we can build our goals and objectives around how the student's, you know, progressing in multiple different areas. So our instruction for some special educators in public schools, it may look similar. Those skilled, highly trained teachers in schools who can offer students instruction like we are, it's phenomenal, and that's what we want to see. You know, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need special educators in public schools or in private institutions. But until there's a system that works for all kids and not just some kids, that's where we're providing the other. When we work with the students, our service is not a free public education service. Parents or a school is, you know, paying for us to sit with the children. So we don't want to spend a ton of time on iPads or computers, desktops, just because the kids are here for intervention. However, we do have some resources that are phenomenal that we may use for, you know, a few minutes during our lesson, and allow the student to have access to that outside of the lesson, so that there's ongoing practice, supplemental work that's going on. So there's a couple computer programs that we use for reading. There's a few that we use for progress monitoring, and then there's a bajillion iPad apps. A couple that we really use that follow our theory and research-based best teaching practices that allow us to work with the kids in the session, but they can practice outside as well. The two reading programs we utilize the most are Lexia, and it's a phonologically based program that starts at the single sound, and, you know, depending on the age and ability of the student, go up through Greek and Latin prefixes, roots and suffixes, reading comprehension, spelling. It's very robust. And MindPlay, again, an online web-based program that addresses phonemic awareness, vocabulary, reading fluency, decoding, comprehension. So it's, again, very robust, and then they also address some spelling through that program. So the kids, the programs themselves are intuitive, so they assess the kids repeatedly to see when they're ready for the next level. We introduce the programs to the kids here, but again, for the sake of intervention, we get the kids started, and that's something that they can do outside of our sessions on their own with their parents. And they're fairly rewarding, they're engaging. I mean, they're not, you know, Minecraft and they're not, World of Warcraft, but, the kids, for the most part, seem to like them and they're supplementing their instruction. What we don't use them for is to replace instruction. Some public schools do use these programs as part of the special education service delivery. Our philosophy is that the one-to-one instruction based on what the student needs is going to serve the student much better and allow them to become independent and appropriately so, more quickly. So everything we use that's digital, electronic, is supplemental to our one-to-one instruction. And I sit with my students at a table just like this or at this table, and then they go out. Some public schools do put the kids in a computer lab, and part of their special ed delivery is they're sitting at a computer reading words on a screen as part of what they're supposed to be getting for instruction or intervention.